If you just killed Batman's son, wouldn't you be afraid of him? This is the Comicstorian channel where I take some of your favorite trade paperbacks and single issues and I break them down into digestible bites to help you understand. Then I read them dramatically back to you. All alterations to the panel, text, and images are to prevent copyright problems, and all art is owned by its respective companies. Welcome to the last issue of Batman Inc. before DC decided to reboot the Batman idea in Batman and Robin's storyline. When we last left off, Talia, running the Leviathan organization, had the evil clone of Damian Wayne, known as the Heretic, kill his brother. Damian actually died, and Batman began to regret all of his decisions of creating a Batman Incorporated, an organization where there are Batmen around the world, and now it's time for Bruce's revenge. His boy is dead. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to check out our Patreon where you can vote on the next story hitting our Sunday videos. And you can also smash that like button like the Hulk while hitting subscribe if you enjoy our content. All right, let's get into this. The sky was gray as the family carried the coffin to the plot of land. Bruce's face was bruised and smashed as he remembers the fight. Batman. It was me. I did it, the Heretic called as Batman leaned over the body of his son, with the Heretic ripping his robes off to reveal his bat armor, holding up the sword that pierced Damian Wayne's chest. I killed your son. I beat you once tonight, old man. You are weak and slow. The Heretic shouts as he slashes downward with the sword, but Batman catches it, twisting. The blade clashes into the ground as he kicks it out, snapping the blade at the tip. He then hammers against the Heretic with blow after blow, drawing blood from his helmet as he chops him in the eyes. Nightwing struggles to his feet, shocked by the body of his former partner. But the Heretic is strong, and he lashes out at Batman, knocking him to the ground. He lifts a broken piece of debris up, preparing to drop it on the Dark Knight. I will never tire! I will break your back! The Heretic shouts, but Nightwing suddenly leaps into the air, kicking the monster in the back. With a bellow of rage, he twists into the air, knocking the Heretic off balance with several kicks and flips. And now we return to the cemetery. Dick turning to Bruce. Maybe you should say something, he says as the rain begins to pour down upon him. Bruce nods as he explains that Damian came into their lives like a lightning bolt. Though he was raised to be the leader of a criminal empire, he chose his own path. He chose to be Robin until the end. His death will be avenged. Bruce finishes. Meanwhile, over in London, Beryl has come to a decision. In her new costume, she stands before the Dark Ranger proposing a team-up. I'm with you, girl. He nods at her, and grimly she places the knight's helmet on her head. It's the Dark Ranger and Knight, she says with a nod. Bruce stands looking down at the freshly dug grave as the others walk away, Alfred appearing over his shoulder. Alfred, you allowed Damian to leave the cave against my instructions. Bruce whispers, the family friend stammering over his words, realizing the error of his ways. But Bruce cuts him off. Take a vacation, Alfred. We'll talk about this when it's over. Bruce tells him. Alfred tries to argue, but eventually turns and walks away, lightning flashing in the sky as Bruce looks up. This is between Talia and me. No one else, he growls. On the roof of Wayne Tower, the Heretic steps forward, informing Talia that his wounds have healed. Beneath them, the city is still in chaos. Brainwashed members of the Leviathan continue to riot and destroy the city. Children attacking police officers. Mutants chasing down innocent bystanders on the streets. And Talia looks into the city. You killed Damian. You killed him before I gave the order, she says to the Heretic without looking at him, and the monster nods, claiming that he made the decision on his own. In the future, you'll do as you're told. Remember what you are, she shouts at him. The night before, with the battle between Batman and the Heretic throws Batman through the front of Wayne Tower, stepping out into the rain. Younger, smarter, faster, stronger, he calls as he lifts at Batman over his head, but an explosion hits them both, tossing the Heretic aside. Yeah, run! Tim shouts from the tank in the lobby. That thing works? Ellie asks. If you know how, Tim tells her, bullets beginning to ricochet around them, and he orders her to get down. The tank turns, firing into the balcony, tossing the Leviathan troops aside. Outside, Batman struggles to his feet. Get Robin, he orders to the others. The following morning, the news reports that the mayor has received word from the criminal organization known as Leviathan, and they demand that the city ban the bat symbol from the streets of Gotham and outlaw Batman Incorporated. Batman is no longer welcome in Gotham City, the mayor tells the people. And in the cave, the members of Batman Incorporated watched the news conference. Nightwing nodding, holding out the trigger cube for Ouroboros that Ellie managed to get a hold of during the fight. As far as we can tell, it activates a ring of bombs that are around the planet, Nightwing tells the other agents. Dark Ranger searches around the cave, finally finding the trail that Jason left when he was abducted by the Hood. Nightwing nods, ordering the others to find Jason. Batman wants us to stay out of the fight. I say we owe it to our friends to finish it, Dick tells them. Meanwhile, Jason looks up, surrounded by the Skull Commandos in his kidnapped location. I suppose you're wondering why you're here, Mr. Wingman. What happens next is up to you, the mysterious headmistress tells him. Meanwhile, in the main Batcave, Bruce finishes dressing his wounds, popping some painkillers, and he pulls on his cowl and begins to walk out, stopping momentarily to pet Batcow. Batcow, he whispers with a smile, shaking his head. Moo, the animal replies, simply. Batman walks into the darkness of the cave, bellowing in rage, bats fluttering all around him. Meanwhile, Azrael bows before his suit of sorrows, a muttering prayer filling the small room. And suddenly he's not alone in the room as Batman stands before him. Michael Lane, I'm preparing for a war and I need your help. Azrael, Batman tells him. Michael stands explaining to Batman that he can't help, that his family was murdered by a pentagram, that he was always supposed to be a warrior for the devil. You fought back, Michael. You refused to accept the role that they tried to give you. That's why you're here. Hell has chosen me as its warrior. Until then, I try to do what good I can, he tells the Dark Knight, and Batman looks at one of the pictures that Michael has taped to the wall, of a dark figure standing over a burning city, and he explains the dreams that he saw, the vision of the future where his son destroyed the world. We're all your sons, Batman. Any one of us could end the world, or save it, Azrael explains as he turns back to his prayers, and Batman nods. My son is dead. The future I saw wasn't his after all, he whispers, turning back to the suit of sorrows on the wall. I intend to defeat the devil, Michael. For all of us, the suit of sorrows that you wore as Azrael protects its wearer from all harm. Am I right? Batman asks. Elsewhere in the city, Gotham is turned against its dark protector. Wanted signs of Batman are plastered around the city, and Gordon steps up onto the rooftop of the GCPD, finding several of his officers smashing the bat signal with axes. Meanwhile, over at Wayne Enterprises, Lucius explains to Bruce that the people are demanding that he say something. Renounce his role of backing Batman Incorporated. But Bruce shakes his head. Lucius leads him through Wayne Enterprises, showing him the shattered remains of the Robats. Recent field tests have proved their unreliability, and if Batman continues to use them as disposable pawns, he explains, motioning to a dumpster full of destroyed Robats. But Bruce shakes his head, explaining that Batman doesn't need the Robats anymore. What's behind the tarp? Bruce asks as he tosses aside one of the Robats' heads and motions to the dark shape in the back of the lab. Lucius nods, explaining that it is a prototype exoskeleton that has wounded everyone who tested it. Bruce pulls off the tarp, admiring it. He's barely listening to Lucius as he asks about his son, letting the billionaire know that he's there if he ever wants to talk. Elsewhere in the city, Nightwing dangles a thug off a rooftop as Red Robin backs him up. I don't care what you people say. You're conscious all the way down and you feel it when your face hits the sidewalk, he growls. The thugs don't fight, explaining that everything with Leviathan is going down tonight. Red Robin looks at Nightwing, telling him that he doesn't believe that Batman can do this alone, and Nightwing nods as they tie the goon to a statue. He's hurt, backed into a corner with bad guys on all sides. And that's Batman at his most dangerous. Nightwing tells Red Robin as the two begin to leap across the rooftops. Suddenly, the radio crackles as Dark Ranger and Night call in, explaining that they have found Wingman's location. Inside the warehouse, the headmistress explains that Jason has been bugged by Talia this whole time. You're not with Talia, are you? Jason asks her. And the Skullgirls in the Hood are standing behind him, with the headmistress stepping forward with a knife as one of the Skullgirls grabs Jason's head, forcing his mouth open. Quite the reverse, trust me. I'll do my best not to slip and cut out that nasty tongue of yours, she says, when suddenly the window shatters above and Dark Ranger and Night land on the floor, the Skullgirls leaping forward but are put down quickly. They order Hood to stand down, but the hero quickly puts up his hands. I'm a spy. I know how it works. And you don't get it, either of you. We're all on the same side. Go on, ask the headmistress, Hood tells Jason, and Jason looks up at the two heroes nodding. He's right. I just realized who this is and what's actually going on. Listen to this woman. Elsewhere, The police kick open the door to Kirk Langstrom's office, demanding to know where Batman is, and Kirk is confused, explaining that he is working on an antidote for the Man-Bat formula. One of the officers then heads towards the windows, explaining that someone is going to hang for Batman, when suddenly a fist pushes through the curtains, smashing the cop in the nose, and Batman growls as the other cops rush forward, leaping out into the night. Inside Wayne Tower, Heretic continues to argue with Talia. "When do I inherit? When will I know? Gotham is my kingdom. Why can't I do what I want?" He shouts, but Talia doesn't even look at him. "You're a child. You barely lived," she tells him offhandedly. "I'm Batman. I want what's mine." He growls at her, raising his hands to his mother, and Talia whirls on him, a detonator in her hand. She explains that his spinal column is wired to explode, that she only needs to press a button. "Mother." Heretic begins, energy crackling through his body as she presses the button. "Lady Talia," she tells him coldly. "Damien disobeyed me. You lack that option. Do you understand?" She asks as she lets go of the button, stepping out into the rainy night. In the cave, Batman is quietly sitting in his chair, holding up the needle, ejecting it into his neck. He growls as the change overtakes him, mutating his body. On the rooftop, a soldier steps forward, informing Lady Talia that the radar is picking up something coming in fast. She holds up her binoculars, gasping as she sees the giant winged shape. "He wouldn't," she whispers, lightning crackling in the night as the Man-Batman barrels towards them, clad in exoskeleton armor. "Why can't he admit defeat?" Talia questions as Batman soars towards them in a cloud of bats. "Why won't he stop?" she asks as she raises her hand, ordering her men to fire. Batman raises his own hand, screeching in the language of the bats. The creatures of the night rush forward, swarming over the soldiers, the Man-Bat commandos. And as the bats bite into the Man-Bats, they begin to change back, falling out of the sky. "The bats are carrying the antidote!" she shouts. Batman swoops down, ripping the Heretic from the rooftop and flying away. He drops him over the city, allowing the monster to slam into a rooftop water tower. He then lands on the rooftop, snarling at the Heretic. "Nothing human can defeat you! Look at me! You killed my son! I'll show you defeat!" He yells at him, slamming his fist into the ground, sending an electrical current through the spilling water, shocking the Heretic. He rushes forward, slamming his fist into the monster, but the Heretic recovers quickly, lashing out. "I'll beat your skull in!" he bellows as he grabs Batman, blood spilling as the Heretic's fist slams into Batman's face. But he twists, punching him in the gut, pushing the Heretic away, and as the monster staggers back, Batman explains, "My suit is made of refractive metal." And then he presses a button, disappearing before the Heretic's eyes. "I can still hear you," the Heretic tells the Dark Knight, blows beginning to slam into the Heretic's body, coming in from all angles. "Good, you hear that?" Batman questions as he continues to lash out at the monster, the blows knocking the Heretic off of the rooftop, sending him plummeting into the rain. The Heretic tries to activate his jetpack, but it fails as he slams into a passing blimp. Batman lands near him, once again becoming visible. The Heretic stabs out at him, slamming his knife into the armor. "Stupid old man!" he growls. "Everything's old when you're a child, programmed to kill instead of play, twisted and broken in the service of your mother." Batman shouts, but the Heretic reaches out, grabbing one of Batman's armored wings, ripping it off. "I do what I want, and I'll kill you!" he bellows, twisting the wing, stabbing it into Batman's chest. He slams the Dark Knight into the ground, grabbing him by the throat, and he finally activates the jetpack, carrying them both into the air. Slamming into the side of a building, exploding through the window, they continue their battle, exploding at the other side and plummeting to the city below. A school bus breaking their fall as they crash into it. Meanwhile, Nightwing and Red Robin arrive outside of the warehouse, prepared to rush in to save their friends that haven't called in 10 minutes, when suddenly the doors open, revealing a squad of Skullgirls. Suddenly, the girls part and Wingman steps out. "Guys, I can explain," he says with a smile. "Oh, this better be good. Talia is about to pull the plug on the city," Nightwing tells Jason, who motions them inside, telling Hood to cue his briefing. The hero's spy steps forward, asking the Bat family if they actually thought that the international intelligence community would allow Bruce Wayne and Batman to launch a private global army. The headmistress steps out of the shadows. "There's still time to save the city, but I suggest you leave the international supercriminals to the experts," she tells them, explaining that this is bigger than Batman. It'll be dealt with a higher power, but right now we need Batman Incorporated to deal with the Ouroboros ring, she tells them with a smile. And as the heroes prepare, Nightwing turns back to the mysterious, shadowy woman. I know you, don't I? That voice. How you've grown. But things never change. Batman needs you. Meanwhile, on the school bus, Batman continues to slam his fist into the heretic, ignoring the brainwashed children that stare at them in shock. Heretic then flies through the front windshield of the bus, slamming hard into the pavement. Blood is dripping from his wounds, mingling with the still falling rain. Why does it hurt? It's not supposed to hurt! He gasps when suddenly the jetpacks bring Nightwing and Night in fast. Nightwing hits the ground running, slamming hard into the heretic, knocking him away. This is for my friend! He yells at him, but both Night and Nightwing begin to attack, hitting Heretic in the sides of the head with their escrima sticks. Heretic falls as Batman stalks over to the group. I thought I told you to stay out of this. I ignored you, like every other time, Nightwing tells his mentor. Batman reaches down, pulling the heretic up, demanding that he look at him. You killed my son! But as he looks into the face of the heretic for the first time, the monster's helmet shattered by the relentless attack. Your son? He mutters, and Batman turns away, letting the villain fall. God, no. Sons are born to die in war. The face of Damian tells him from the monster as Batman realizes how close to Damian this clone is. But Night isn't done. Nightwing grabs her, holding the hero back as she is yelling at him in rage, demanding to kill the monster. He has nowhere to go. It's over, Batman tells them, and the heretic suddenly gets to his feet, rushing towards the entrance of Wayne Tower. But lightning strikes the large W at the top, sending it crashing to the streets, blocking the entryway before Night can follow. A short time later, Heretic is standing on the rooftop, demanding to know why Batman said that Talia was using him. But the woman turns, her sword flashing quickly, cutting the head off of Heretic's body. I sow and reap as I choose. I warned you, she whispers, walking across the roof, boarding her waiting helicopter. Give the order. Kill the city. I'll do the rest. She commands as she presses the button on her detonator. The city suddenly going dark. There's a brief moment of peace in the rain. But then that peace is shattered as Wayne Tower suddenly explodes in a flash of light. The helicopter travels the city, landing on the grounds of Wayne Manor. Talia slips inside, clad in a bat cowl and cape. Armed with her twin swords, she moves through the manor, finding the secret entrance to the Batcave. Exactly where I want you. You and I, at last. She calls to Batman as she walks down the stairs. Batman standing before her, bathed in the light of the Bat computer. To the death, my detective! Lightning crashes as the rain begins to pour down upon them. Gordon looks up, yelling that Bruce Wayne is under arrest. The city is in turmoil. The sun has finally come up over this horrendous night. And in the GCPD, Gordon walks into the interrogation room, placing a cup of coffee before Bruce Wayne. He looks at the state of Wayne's face, covered in bruises and bandages, and Bruce smiles, admitting that it's from boredom and dangerous sports. What can I tell you, Jim? Bruce asks, and Gordon looks at him, pointing out that they blew up Wayne Tower, brainwashed children, and they've been terrorizing the city streets. Tell me how it got to this, he asks the billionaire, and sadness fills Wayne's eyes. An old flame set the town on fire. We had a son, bad seed, bad blood. I did my best to save the boy from his mother's influence, and I failed. I triggered a kind of war, Bruce explains to the police commissioner. So you built an army of Batmen? Jim asks, and as he looks at Wayne, he is shocked that Bruce would date the daughter of Ra's al Ghul. You see, the previous night is when this all came to its conclusion. As Talia walked down the steps of the Batcave, she dramatically tossed her cloak aside. Here we are, the grand finale! A flamboyant enemy worthy of the Batman, she tells him. Batman looks at her in anger, asking, was this all to get back at me? It was over for Damian when you dragged him into your game of masks and capes, she tells him, tossing him a sword. Batman catches it, preparing himself. This stopped being a game a long time ago, he yells back at her, and they leap at each other, swords clashing, echoing throughout the cave. Meanwhile, at the interrogation room, after the events, Jim folds his hands, asking how long they've known each other. Since the beginning, Jim, Bruce admits, remembering the friendly beat cop that helped a young boy with the tragedy in Crime Alley. Bruce nods, admitting that he tried to fight against something he barely knew. But back in the cave, Talia and Bruce pull each other close, kissing as the city tears itself apart outside. Riots continue in the streets as the Bat family moves throughout them. The Hood and the Skullgirls continue to fight against Leviathan. They're all trying to stop Ouroboros. Across the globe, Batman Incorporated is continuing its battle, and Talia pulls away. A final taste of the life that you have rejected. A fading memory of a life you will never know. She snaps at him, and as they circle each other, Talia explains that Leviathan has orders to leave the city if she doesn't return. Kill me and save your city. Kill me, or I will kill you, she tells him. She taunts him with the death of Damian as their swords clash again and again. And Jim asks Bruce what happened to his son. What happened to Talia al Ghul? Batman and Talia's swords clash again, but the force of the blow shatters the blade this time. Bruce leans forward, and he tells Jim that he knows that he is finished, that Batman Incorporated is finished, that I was right to support him. We saved the world, Bruce explains. Blood oozes from Batman's wounds in the sword fight, Talia looking at him, explaining that she used a new poison on the blade. He has 10 minutes to live, and he nods. Of course. I'm sorry I couldn't love you the way you wanted me to, Talia. You're right. I can't fight you. So what is it you really want? He asks as the world begins to twist around him as the poison is taking effect. You chose war. I gave you an unbeatable enemy. I did this all for you. You'll never understand. Beg me for the antidote, she tells him as he falls to his knees. Suddenly, the sound of a motorcycle approaches, and the wingman screeches to a halt in the Batcave. Don't kill him! Don't kill him! He shouts as he holds up the trigger cube for Ouroboros. They gave me what you wanted, in exchange for Batman's life, he tells her. Batman struggles to lift his head. Jason, no, I trusted you. Don't do this. Don't let her win. Batman gasps, struggling through the poison, and Jason walks across the chamber holding out the cube. Give me the antidote, and the trigger is yours, he tells Talia. She nods, dropping the antidote on the body of Batman. She reaches out, taking the Ouroboros trigger from Jason, the thing that will end the entire planet, the bombs that are circling the world. He owes you his life. I hope he lives long enough to thank you for it, she says smugly. She reaches down and hits the trigger, but nothing happens. And Jason, aka Wingman, aka Red Hood, smiles at her. Our people disarmed your ring of death 5 minutes ago. I didn't come here alone, Talia. I came here because I owe you, and I'm telling you to run before the scary bad people get here. As Batman gulps down the antidote, he lifts his head and he tells Talia that the Ouroboros energy is unstable, strength returning to his body as he gets to his feet. My advice, never trust an unstable Nazi. You might think you own the world, but you'll never have Gotham. She shakes her head as she tells Bruce that she'll buy Wayne Industries and wipe him from existence, that he should have killed her when he had the chance. But a voice makes them all look up in shock. You know as well as I do, Batman doesn't kill, the headmistress says as she aims her pistol, shooting Talia in the skull. Kathy Kane, the original Batwoman, steps out of the shadows, her pistol smoking as she smiles at Batman, explaining that Spiral has been closing in on Talia al Ghul for some time. Batman cradles his former love's body, shocked to see Kathy, but she smiles as she picks up the trigger. Stick to what you do best, and don't try to find me. I don't exist, Kathy tells him. Jim leans over the table in the interrogation room, commenting that no one has seen Batman in days. Batman died, Jim. From what I heard, Batman met his match, Bruce tells him. An officer walks in and hands Jim a piece of paper. Well, a mysterious woman cleared your bail, Jim tells Bruce as he scans the paper, telling him that the government shut down the investigation against Bruce Wayne. I'm not sure what happened, but you might be the luckiest man on Earth, Bruce, Jim tells his friend. Before the billionaire can get up to leave, though, Jim admits that the city needs Batman, now more than ever. And Bruce nods, admitting that he needs to rebuild his company. You'll have to ask Batman about that, he says as he stands. I hope I get a chance. If he's still out there, he knows where I am, and if I ever need to call him, I'd like to think that he'll get the message, Jim says with a smile as he shows his secret Batman pin. Alfred waits outside the police station with the door to Bruce's limo open. I canceled my vacation, sir. There's something rather unusual that I think you need to see. Alfred tells him, and they drive to the cemetery, where they discover the graves of his parents dug up and the bodies removed. Without a word, Bruce returns to the manor, to the cave, and once again, Batman prowls the night, for Batman never dies. And there you have it, the conclusion to the epic that is known as Batman Incorporated, in which Damian Wayne did officially die, and this was the original writer, Grant Morrison's conclusion to his storyline of creating a son of Batman and then killing him off. Now, he has gone on record and stated that if he had the ability, he would have left Damian dead. Now, we all know DC immediately went back to reviving him, and if you want to know the story of how Batman got back his son, so let me know in the comments if you want it, and if enough of you say you want it, I'll bring the vote to Patreon, and if they agree, we'll be putting that series out. It's actually a pretty long thing. It's called Robin Requiem. So it's like a whole thing of him coming back. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this overall. It was a lot of fun for me to do. I know it got some of the lower views, but it's a classic story. And a lot of classic stories don't get traction over here. But that doesn't matter because if somebody enjoyed it, I had fun making it. If you're curious about the clones like the Heretic, for the record, they do come back later. Turns out there's an entire island of failed clones that Talia did before she got to the Heretic. I think we covered it here on the channel, and if we did, I'll link it down below. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for your continued support. I do enjoy doing these videos, and I'm glad you enjoyed them as well. Don't forget to hit that like button, smash the subscribe button, and once again, like I said, if you want to vote for this to continue, let me know in the comments down below, and then head on over to Patreon to support us there. Thank you, and I'll see you next time right here.